Hey, welcome back to the SNS College Football Podcast. This is the Week 5 preview. Unfortunately, we did already record the episode. The file was corrupt, so you missed all the good interaction and banter between Addison and Dave and myself this week. But I want to give you guys, some kind of pod this week. It's going to be just a brief recap of everything we talked about. And as always, our bets, our up-to-date records and our bets, the most important part of the podcast, they're going to be in the description box below. But if you want to keep listening, listen to the quick recap of the games we previewed last week. I'll give some winners and losers that everybody gave out. Our Week 4 bets, I'm not going to recap those just because you guys can go back to the last video and see what we bet. But I'll get into the Week 5 preview games. Or preview the Week 5 game. Sorry, it's late. And it's going to be Ohio State, Nebraska. Ohio State's at Nebraska. Notre Dame hosting Virginia. Washington hosting USC. And then I'll give a couple of the bets that the guys gave out. And those will be obviously in the description box, like I said. But quick recap, Michigan, Wisconsin. Wisconsin third domination. Michigan is just lacking an identity right now. They can't play physical football like Harbaugh wants to play, but they're not efficient or fast enough in the spread on offense. The defense did get manhandled by Wisconsin, but they've still been all right this year. We really question their coaching staff and that program moving forward right now, though. We feel strongly about Wisconsin, though. We think they're doing good things. They just continue to look dominant on both sides of the ball. And Addison actually has included them in his top 7 teams now that are legitimate playoff and national title contenders. Third domination by Wisconsin, though. Auburn at A&M was the second game. It's interesting. We discussed how Auburn wins another game without statistically looking that great. But they're finding ways to get it done. Dave mentioned how well Gus Malzahn essentially called plays in this game. His game plan overall, a lot of misdirection, a lot of counters, getting his athletes in space. A&M is struggling a little bit offensively, and they're not struggling defensively. We felt like that was the opposite of what we expected coming into this year, so they're a weird team. But Auburn finds another way to win a pretty big game this year. Last game that we previewed last week, Notre Dame at Georgia, we felt that we were very surprised by how well Notre Dame played, especially their defense. We were also very surprised at how conservative Georgia was. We felt like the play calling was a lot of finesse, a lot of short passes. I think Fromm was looking to throw short a little bit more often than he should have. Georgia's athletes in depth, their speed, I think that ended up taking over in the second half. And Notre Dame kept it close, though. They had a chance to win this game, but they had 12 penalties. They had 2 turnovers. I think that ended up being pretty much the deciding factor there. But we feel like both teams moving forward are still playoff contenders, including Notre Dame, even with that one loss. Some Week 4 winners that we gave out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson for UCLA. He's been a loser on the pod forever now. But he had over 550 total yards of offense, over 500 passing. He had 7 total touchdowns in that crazy comeback win over Washington State. He was a winner. Pat Narduzzi calling actually an aggressive trick play in the red area at the end of the game against UCF to win it, opposed to the week before against Penn State where he kicked a field goal on Penn State's 1-yard line down 7. We give Pat Narduzzi a lot of shit. I still don't think he's a good coach, but hey, if you have a good week and you make a good coaching call and outcoach the other coach, then you got a chance to be a winner. Excuse me, guys. So we mentioned Gus Malzahn. He was one of Dave's winners. Willie Fritz as well, leading Tulane back in that victory, out-coaching Dana Holgerson, really getting his team to believe at halftime that they still had a chance to win that game. Same thing with Cal, Justin Wilcox. They go to Oxford, Mississippi, play at Ole Miss at 12 Eastern last Saturday, come away with another win. They're 4-0 now and ranked, so it's pretty big for Cal. Losers, we had obviously Michigan, the Michigan coaching staff. Tennessee football, they're going to be on there forever until they find a way to win and win a meaningful game. Northwestern's offense, Hunter Johnson, both atrocious. One of the worst offenses and quarterbacks in the country right now. They they're going to struggle to win games moving forward this year. And Addison made a good point that they're not winning the hidden yards. They're missing tackles. They're not doing well on special teams. They're turning the ball over. They're doing all the things that they normally don't do that makes up for their lack of talent, and it's going to cost them more and more this year. Utah secondary and their coaching staff just allowing Michael Pittman to constantly dominate last Friday night one-on-one. That was also one of Tolman's winners. The USC wide receiver had 230 yards receiving in that game. We also mentioned the Pac-12 refs, specifically Michael Mothershed. There were 27 called penalties in the USC-Utah game. Pac-12 refs, they need to get it together. Stop calling soft games. Let the kids play. But yeah, we'll get into the next segment. I'm going to save the conspiracy corner. Dave had a good one about Will Muschamp. I'm going to let him possibly bring that up again. Like I said, if you guys want to recap or if you want to go ahead and look at our Week 4 bets from last week, look in last week's video in the description box. You can see how we did. A lot of our better bets, our most confident bets, paid off handsomely. But the Week 5 preview. OSU is at Nebraska. OSU is giving 17.5 here. It opened at 14. We determined that if Nebraska does not start fast, or at least prevent Ohio State from starting too fast, things could get ugly because the crowd will be out of it at that point. It's Nebraska's biggest home game in over a decade at least that we determined. I think we're a little skeptical of Nebraska's run defense. They let Illinois run all over them. Illinois actually has a nationally elite rushing attack, so we have to take that into consideration. But Ohio State might also. Ohio State has obviously the depth and the athletes to give Nebraska a lot of problems here. We actually were leaning Ohio State to be able to cover here if they play like they have been. We wouldn't be surprised if there's pro money on Nebraska coming in at 17.5 now with that hook. Notre Dame and Virginia, our main questions were, can Virginia generate enough offense to win this game? And we felt like probably not. Bryce Perkins is pretty beat up. They have no playmakers around him. Notre Dame's defense impressed us enough against Georgia that we think they're really going to do a nice job against Virginia. Or against, Georgia, and we think they're going to do a nice job against Virginia. Virginia's strength on defense, though, is their back seven, and it's nationally elite. Notre Dame is struggling to run the ball a little bit this year. They're pretty pass-heavy when they have to generate offense against good defenses, it seems. So we think the numbers are about right at 11, but it's the under that we like the most. If you can get it above 49, we have a bet at 52.5, a bet at 50.5. We think this game is more like 28-17, 27-17, somewhere in that ballpark. So we do feel good about the under in that game. Washington hosting USC. The main takeaway in this game is that we feel like USC is a little volatile this year. We don't know what we're getting from them week to week. They could win this game, but we feel like Washington has a pretty damn good home field advantage up there in Seattle. We also feel like Eason might have a little bit of an edge in the passing game against USC's pass defense. So I think in general the pod was a little split on the number at 10. We have no plays on it, though, because we mainly, like I said, USC is just a little volatile for us right now. We don't even know who's starting at quarterback. But we do lean Washington winning that game straight up. We don't know about the cover. Seems like we feel like all the favorites are going to take care of business this week as far as those three games are concerned. But we feel that Virginia and USC are a little bit more of a live dog than Nebraska, maybe. Maybe not as much Virginia either. I think we feel like Notre Dame's really going to take care of business there. We think USC's probably got the best shot of winning outright. As far as Week 5 bets, Dave's best bet this week is Mississippi State plus 10 at Auburn. I also really like that bet and have that bet as well. I have it at 10.5. I believe you can get it at 11 now. Auburn's offense just hasn't wowed us. We think they're slightly overrated on that side of the ball. Their defense is definitely elite. Mississippi State's offense and defense have both been very solid this year. We think that Mississippi State can do enough to keep it within that number and actually possibly win that game on the field. Auburn they just got done with an emotional road victory at Texas A&M. They've got Florida the following week after they play Mississippi State here. So it's like that classic sandwich spot where we feel like Mississippi State can sneak in there and possibly win the game on the field. But we think Auburn likely wins the game. Mississippi State with a nice cover, though. He really likes Penn State -6.5 at Maryland. I think it's 7 now. Maryland could be a little fraudulent. We saw what Temple did to them. They could have been looking ahead to Penn State. We'll have to see here, but Penn State definitely is more talented, more depth. He likes them to take care of business out in College Park. My 2 best bets for the week were North Texas -1 versus Houston. That line's up to 6 now. D'Eriq King announced he's going to redshirt. He basically is quitting on the team. So that line shifted significantly to where I wouldn't give that one out anymore, but I did give it out publicly yesterday. Oregon State, they are +3.5 versus Stanford. Another classic sandwich spot where Stanford played Oregon the week before. They're going to have to play Washington the week after Oregon State now. Oregon State's off of a bye, extra week to prepare. Stanford is banged up. They kind of look like a defeated team to me right now. I think that their offense is pitiful. Oregon State's defense is the same, so I don't think Stanford's going to take too much advantage of that just because of how poor they are right now in offense. But Stanford's defense is kind of below average. It's not really doing that well this year. I like Oregon State to exploit Stanford through the air and to be able to score enough points to actually win this game on the field. But I think even if they don't win, they have a really good chance of covering 3.5. I think you can get it 3 now. Addison is also going to make it 3 for 3 with Mississippi State. He really likes them in that game to cover. I don't remember what his other bet was, but you guys can obviously check the bets out in the description box below. Apologize for not having the normal pod up. We'll be back with the regular pod the next following week when we preview week 6. But, sometimes shit happens, so this is what you're going to get, just me on here recapping what we talked about. But, yeah, the most important part, the bets, obviously. Like I said, go to the description box. You'll see our up-to-date records, our best bets, and all the whole slate of bets that we have this year. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and put them down in the comment section below. And we should be back, like I said, on a normal schedule next week, and we will see you then.